In a historic and far-reaching decision, the Supreme Court has struck down the Trump-era tariffs, declaring them unconstitutional and setting a new precedent for how America approaches international trade. This landmark ruling is already being hailed as a turning point in the nation's economic history, with implications that will ripple across industries and borders for years to come. This ruling dismantles years of protectionism and trade wars, signaling a dramatic shift in U.S. economic policy. For many, it marks the end of a turbulent era defined by escalating tariffs, retaliatory measures, and uncertainty for businesses and consumers alike. The tariffs had touched nearly every corner of American life, from the price of everyday household goods to the livelihoods of Midwest farmers. Families saw costs rise at the checkout, while exporters faced shrinking markets abroad. The uncertainty sparked by these policies led to global retaliation, disrupted supply chains, and left many wondering what the future would hold. Now, with a single decisive verdict, that era comes to a close. The Supreme Court's action is more than just a legal ruling. It's a signal to the world that the United States is ready to turn the page. The court's decision reasserts Congress's authority over trade and taxation, a core constitutional principle that has shaped American governance for centuries. By reaffirming the balance of power, the ruling restores a vital check on executive action and reopens the door for legislative debate on trade policy. Stock markets worldwide are reacting with optimism as investors anticipate renewed stability and growth. The removal of tariffs is expected to lower costs for manufacturers and consumers, boost exports, and encourage new investment both at home and abroad. Foreign governments are expressing relief, welcoming the decision as a step toward rebuilding trust and cooperation. Many hope this will ease tensions and foster a more predictable environment for global commerce. This is more than a policy reversal. It's a signal that America may be returning to a more open, collaborative approach to global commerce. Businesses are already preparing for new opportunities, and trade partners are eager to re-engage with the world's largest economy. As the world absorbs this seismic change, questions remain. What will it mean for jobs, prices, and the competitiveness of American industries? Will consumers see relief at the checkout, and how quickly will businesses adapt to the new landscape? And in Washington, the balance of power is once again in the spotlight. As lawmakers and leaders debate the next steps, one thing is clear: the dawn of a new era in global trade has arrived, and its impact will be felt by all. To truly understand the significance of today's Supreme Court ruling, we need to revisit the bold and controversial trade policies that define the Trump administration. These policies didn't just alter America's economic landscape, they sparked fierce debate at home and abroad. And their ripple effects are still being felt today. Beginning in 2018, the Trump administration imposed sweeping tariffs, targeting not only China, but also some of America's closest allies. The stated goal was to protect American industries, revive domestic manufacturing, and address the persistent U.S. trade deficit. These measures were seen by supporters as a long-overdue correction to decades of perceived unfair trade. The administration invoked Section 232, citing national security concerns, and Section 301, targeting what it called unfair trade practices by China. This legal framework allowed for tariffs on steel, aluminum, and hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, fundamentally changing the rules of global commerce. While some U.S. steel and aluminum producers saw a boost, many American manufacturers and especially farmers faced higher costs for materials and devastating retaliation from foreign markets. Soybean and corn exports, for example, were hit hard as China imposed its own tariffs in response. The tariffs quickly became a central issue in American politics, igniting passionate debate. They forced companies to rethink their supply chains, with some shifting production overseas to avoid higher costs, while others doubled down on domestic investment. Economists and business leaders warned of long-term consequences for global trade relationships. Supporters hailed the tariffs as a necessary defense of American jobs and sovereignty, arguing that tough action was needed to level the playing field. Critics, however, saw them as a self-inflicted wound, raising prices for consumers and businesses alike. The resulting uncertainty rattled markets and left many Americans facing higher prices at the store. Businesses struggled to plan for the future, and the economic fallout set the stage for a major legal showdown. Ultimately, the fierce debate over the legality and impact of these tariffs could not be resolved in the political arena alone. The issue was brought before the Supreme Court, where justices weighed the far-reaching consequences for trade, law, and the American economy. Today's decision marks the culmination of years of conflict, debate, and uncertainty, a pivotal moment in the ongoing story of America's economic policy. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods, designed to make foreign products more expensive and domestic ones more competitive. Essentially, they act as a financial barrier to imports, encouraging consumers to buy locally produced items instead. This can be particularly important for countries looking to protect their nascent industries from being overwhelmed by more established foreign competitors. For instance, when you see a Made in USA label next to a Made in China label, the price difference might be due to tariffs. These taxes can make imported goods significantly more expensive, thereby making domestic products more appealing to consumers. For example, a 25% tariff on a $20,000 car adds $5,000 to its US price. This makes the imported car less attractive compared to a similar domestic model, which might not have such a hefty tax. Governments use tariffs to raise revenue, protect industries, or as leverage in foreign policy. By imposing tariffs, they can generate significant income, which can be used for public services or infrastructure projects. Additionally, tariffs can serve as a bargaining chip in international negotiations. There are ad valorem tariffs, a percentage of value, which means the tax is calculated based on the item's value. This type of tariff can fluctuate with the price of the goods, making it somewhat unpredictable. And specific tariffs, a fixed fee per unit. This means a set amount is charged regardless of the item's value, providing more consistency in revenue. The Trump administration used both, especially on steel, aluminum, and electronics. These tariffs were part of a broader strategy to revive American manufacturing and reduce the trade deficit. In theory, tariffs boost domestic production by making local goods more competitive. This can lead to job creation and economic growth within the country. But in practice, costs are passed down to consumers, raising prices for everyone. This means that while industries might benefit, the average consumer ends up paying more for everyday items. Retaliation is common. Other countries respond with their own tariffs, as seen in the US-China trade war. This tit-for-tat escalation can lead to higher prices and strained international relations. Protectionists argue tariffs defend jobs. They believe that by shielding local industries from foreign competition, jobs are preserved and even created. Free traders say they stifle growth and limit choice. They argue that tariffs disrupt the free market, leading to inefficiencies and higher costs for consumers. The Trump tariffs reignited this age-old debate, with real consequences for American households. Families found themselves grappling with higher prices on everything from groceries to electronics. Today's ruling brings that debate to a turning point. The future of tariffs and their impact on the economy remains a hotly contested issue. The legal battle centered on a core question: who controls tariffs, Congress or the president? The Constitution gives Congress the power to tax and regulate trade. Plaintiffs argued the Trump tariffs were an executive overreach, a massive tax imposed without congressional approval. While Congress has delegated some tariff authority for emergencies, critics said Trump's sweeping actions went far beyond what the law intended. The government countered that Congress had granted broad discretion to the president, especially on national security. The Supreme Court was asked to decide if such vast power could be delegated, or if it violated the separation of powers. The case, American Importers Alliance versus United States, became a defining test of constitutional checks and balances. The outcome would redraw the boundaries of presidential authority. In a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court ruled the Trump-era tariffs an unconstitutional overreach of executive power. The majority opinion, by Chief Justice Roberts, clarified that while the president can act on trade for national security, that authority isn't unlimited. The court found the tariffs resembled broad economic policy, not targeted security measures, power that belongs to Congress. The ruling sets a new limit on presidential use of trade laws, requiring a clear link to national security. The dissent argued the court was intruding on political branches, but the majority stood firm on congressional authority. The tariffs are now invalid, and importers may seek refunds for billions paid. The White House is reviewing the decision, but the legal battle is over. The verdict reshapes presidential power for decades to come. The end of the tariffs will likely mean lower prices for American families on goods like electronics, furniture, and appliances. Economists estimate households could save hundreds per year as the extra tax disappears. For businesses reliant on imports, this is a major relief. Lower costs could spur investment and hiring, especially in manufacturing and tech. However, domestic industries once shielded by tariffs like steel and aluminum now face renewed global competition. Policymakers must help workers and sectors adjust to this new reality. Farmers, hit hard by foreign retaliation, may regain lost export markets as other countries lift their own tariffs. The U.S. economy will undergo a period of adjustment as supply chains realign. The long-term effects depend on how businesses and trading partners respond to this dramatic shift. The Supreme Court's decision is reverberating worldwide. U.S. trading partners in Europe and Asia are welcoming the move, hoping for normalized relations and renewed economic cooperation. China, the main target of the tariffs, is expected to lift its own retaliatory measures, potentially reopening markets for American goods. Global stock markets are rallying, anticipating lower business costs and fewer supply chain disruptions. International organizations see the ruling as a boost for global growth. Yet, companies that diversified supply chains during the trade war now face tough choices about whether to return to old models. The end of the tariff era introduces new uncertainty, but also new opportunities for global commerce. The world is watching to see if this marks a true return to globalization or a new, more fragmented order. Legal experts call this one of the most significant rulings on separation of powers in decades. The court reaffirmed that while the president has foreign policy power, only Congress can rewrite economic laws. The decision sets a precedent. Delegated powers must have clear limits and principles. Economists say removing the tariffs is like a tax cut for the economy, boosting growth and stability. There will be adjustment costs for some industries, but the net effect is expected to be positive. The ruling clarifies the boundaries of presidential power for future administrations. It's not just about one president, it's about preserving the architecture of American democracy. This decision will shape the balance of power for years to come. Today's Supreme Court ruling marks the end of one era and the uncertain start of another. The decision reaffirms Congress's authority over economic policy and the enduring power of checks and balances. Americans will see changes in prices, business strategies, and global relationships. Leaders must ensure the benefits of open trade are widely shared and support those facing new challenges. This is a moment for national reflection. What kind of economy and global role do we want? The story connects constitutional law to everyday life, reminding us democracy is shaped by debate and action. Now, your voice matters. Share your thoughts and help shape the next chapter in America's economic journey. Welcome to Global Facts. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates.